DraftKings and Fanatics are going at it. It's I'd say it's more one-sided. So what's happened is DraftKings has put in a submission to acquire PointsBet USA after Fanatics went in and did the same thing about a month or so ago, or just under a month. So Fanatics put in a deal at $150 million US. DraftKings was sort of like a last second mover just before the board is about to meet and make a decision and vote on the Fanatics deal. They've come in and thrown $195 million deal at PointsBet. This is really interesting. We haven't seen much of this in recent times. It really puts a perspective on things, and it creates this awesome rivalry that, as a consumer and as a viewer, we like to see. What are your thoughts, Rob?
Well, look, I'm in the sales business, and there's nothing like having two bidders. And so, obviously, the folks at Fanatics were early movers on the PointsBet opportunity, making that offer. And again, it was an unsolicited offer too. I think they PointsBet it talked about making a decision to kind of contract their U.S. operations, and that offer was made by Fanatics. And look, a little playing a little possum over there was DraftKings, kind of waiting for the 11th hour, to a point to where they can come in and swoop in with a sweeter deal, 195 million, and kind of leave the folks at Fanatics with very little time to counter, if you will. As someone who's been a bridesmaid a couple times on acquisitions of some sports franchises, nothing like being able to have the last bid at the table, because that closes out the deal. So in this case, one, it wasn't just a dollar ante up, so to speak. I mean, it was a fairly significant chunk, another 45 million at the end of the day, price increase. And, now, PointsBet, has a decision to make. I think, it's one of those things you start looking at, obviously the money is going to be a big part of it, but start looking at what the partner is, and, what some of those board members may have future roles within, one buyer or not another. And so those are decisions that'll start getting hashed out when they start reading the fine print of the offer, and who has a job once the decision's made, and who doesn't, kind of thing. So I mean, it'll be quite interesting. But hey, as you said, it's interesting to kind of see a little bit of an eye poke there, from DraftKings to Fanatics, with that 11th hour offer, and let's see how this thing plays out.
So there was some commentary from the CEO of Fanatics, Michael Rubin. He accused DraftKings of attempting to stall their deal and described that move as a desperate move, a move of desperation. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, it's a little bit of a chess match at this point, and probably, look, honestly, there could have been some conversations internally, and maybe at some point some assumptions, that the deal was going to happen, and so maybe there was some planning being done internally at Fanatics. And when something like this comes up, you got to save a little face, you got to show a little fight, you got to make sure that you don't go down without taking a swing or two. Just like any fight, it's I would say that one, there's certainly a rivalry, being born here a little bit. But at some level, look, it's tactics. Obviously, the DraftKings waited, kind of laid in wait to make an offer, and put something that was fairly significant. Obviously, if this is $150 to $155 million deal, then probably not going to upset the apple cart for $5 million, but $45 million, causes a board to think twice, on a deal. So I'm sure Ruben is just protecting his brand and protecting his position. Probably at some level, echoing some choice words that are probably said behind closed doors in a boardroom or on a conference call with their executive staff. But he's just fighting for Fanatics and fighting for the deal, and but it'll be interesting to kind of see what direction things go, because it does, you know how would they say, it does kind of reveal character in some ways if um, if you accepted a deal, and then you're not accepting it, but at the same time, as someone who could be representing a property and having multiple offers, you got to be fair and honest and upfront with people. So if someone got fairly, honestly, and accurately got a bid in before deadline, then then this is what negotiations about. So hopefully that the whoever's representing PointsBet was didn't make any concessions or make any promises to Fanatics. Um, doesn't sound like they did, but given the long um, you know time frame between their offer and obviously the a counter offer or a second offer, um, makes you wonder, if someone tried to stir something up to maybe try to get you know, try to create a bidding war for the brand. And again, that's the job of the seller or the agent that's trying to help sell it. You want a bidding war. You want at least two involved, maybe three. And it didn't sound like there was another uh, entity involved until very late. So it does raise a question. Um, but it also raises the question of, if you're Fanatics, do you want them at the end of the day? If this is how they're gonna, maybe there was a handshake, maybe there was a verbal, "You're our guys, we're going with you," and prove that everybody does have a price to maybe come off their word.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very interesting. How do you think? So let's compare the two brands. DraftKings is a more established brand when it comes to sports gambling than Fanatics, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
This was sort of, this deal would have put Fanatics in a solid position in the sports gambling world. And DraftKings has come in and said, hey, hang on a second. We're the big boys here. Get out of the way. This is our part of the world. This is our territory.
Yeah.
And it would also have to go through, I think, some antitrust, DOJ sort of vetting and so on and so on, because they're pretty much adding to already a huge empire that's existing in one industry. So the term monopoly will start to get thrown around and so on and so on. Obviously, that might have a way around. Where in terms of Fanatics, this was a new way in to a new world for them. That they playing in a small fashion, like this was sort of saying, hey, we're here. So what do you think? How do you see this impacting either or, basically?
Well, this is definitely an add-on to what DraftKings is already doing. Taking a
Yeah,
competitive brand and just absorbing them into their current portfolio. Obviously, for Fanatics, it was creating, or validating their participation in a category. I mean, it would be like DraftKings going off and buying a merchandising company and going, hey, we're DraftKings merchandise, and Fanatics is like, no, you're
hang
not.
on a sec.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hang on a sec. So I
hang
mean,
on a sec.
but it's diversification for Fanatics, and we've seen them doing that, for the better part of year and a half now. With the acquisition of Tops and the acquisition of they got into the NFT business and they got out, and then obviously this move into or the interest in acquiring PointsBet. We all knew Fanatics as an apparel merchandiser, and a very good one and a very big one. We've seen them kind of do maybe a natural next step in their acquisition of the jersey rights for NHL, because they were selling the jerseys, and so now it's a Fanatics jersey, not Adidas, Reebok, or Nike. So we've seen them, really be aggressive in creating new revenue streams, getting into new spaces. But they've all been very merchandising driven. This is one that kind of was a step outside of their proverbial box a little bit, and to kind of create the gaming or acquire game, a prominent, well, not prominent, but a gaming entity. And now, like you said, a DraftKings, a FanDuel, someone of that nature is like saying, we're having enough battles with BetMGM and Caesar Sportsbook and Betfred and a few others that are we got Jake Paul with his better. We've got a lot of things that are playing into the gambling space. Fanatics is a form is well capitalized. They could be formidable. They have league relationships, and team relationships, very extensive. Very powerful relationships that, if they chose to lean on those relationships, who's your buddy? Who's your pal? Who's your friend? Fanatics, who's selling all your merchandise. I mean, literally, they have every league. They have just about every college. I mean, they've got a pretty powerful. Or do you want to go with the guys that just do betting? And kind of looking at who's going to be around longer? Guys selling your merchandise, or how is betting eventually going to end up? Are we going to be having a conversation 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like we were with what the EPL is doing about removing betting branding from significant positions on the uniforms and the like?
Chelsea,
are we going to?
Speaking of EPL, Chelsea just signed the 1-year deal with Stake, like £40 million.
Yeah, well, Stake is coming off. It was just crazy because Stake's on our friends at Watford.
Mm-hmm.
And Stake is obviously the 3 deal was ending at Chelsea, so you'll see a lot of 1-year betting deals for sure, because they're going to be year to year at this point, because it's just a matter of time before they're moved off.
Yeah,
and that's a discount for Chelsea, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they discounted themselves with the way they played this year. So
yeah, for sure. But if we go back to the sports gambling environment at the moment, that ecosystem, you have FanDuel spending big on content. I was saying something about Shannon Sharp potentially joining them.
Yep.
They have a few more names that they're signing up. DraftKings has thrown money now at a podcast network that we've spoken about in previous shows. Barstool was acquired by Penn Gaming content. Better is trying to sign up all these influencers and whatnot and create content. Fanatics is going the other way. I think they're leveraging the existing network of leagues and whatnot, and will add this to what they currently do. But we're seeing a very, very close relationship between those two wheels, the wheels of content and sports gambling or betting in general, because they go so well hand in hand, that they're both pivotal to each other's successes. If we look at the NFL and the engagement rate and how many people are tuning in and the amount of betting that's happening during these games, there was reports that this is highest number of engaged users in many, many years. And what's coming along with that is the betting on literally anything from a touchdown to a what's it called, offensive tackle, like anything basically. So we're seeing it's becoming an integral part of sport, and the big boys are putting their big boy pants on. They're saying, "Hang on a second, this is our world. Stay where you are, and we're going to try and block you at every single point we can." And it's in their best interest.
Yeah, yeah. No, again, it's basically protecting turf at this point, and there betting obviously was a was a was white snow there for a while. Untrodden upon. Couldn't go there. Um, you know, up till 6 years ago, Vegas wasn't a major league city, and all of a sudden, you know, it's
They can't
okay.
keep up.
Gambling's okay, and
Yeah.
now they've got NHL, now they've got NFL, they've got Super Bowl, they've got Formula One, they've got
We're about to
MLB
talk
coming.
about NBA later on in the show as well.
Yeah, so I
So
mean,
yeah,
you see that just like when any category opens up, obviously there's been this. They have a lot of capital, a lot of marketing capital that couldn't be spent. Certainly here in the U.S. couldn't be spent, and once it was cleared, state by state, and things started to roll themselves out, those brands started to spend, and lucratively spending. Both
absolutely.
influencers, endorsers, partnerships, building, to the point to where they were building books in stadiums that 5 years ago, if you cast a bet, you were banned from the league forever, kind of stuff. And now
Yeah,
you can actually walk in and bet in a stadium that, as a player, you could you know still get banned for a year based on where you bet, when you bet, kind of thing. But just we went from betting went from just totally non-existent to all in, literally.
yeah,
And with that acceleration, you had players that come in and would do a land grab. FanDuel, DraftKings were obviously already kind of established as fantasy, players, and then naturally moved into the prop betting and everything else, gambling, and because yes, there's gambling on fantasy leagues too, right? We all play in pool and play in leagues and pay to get in and all that. It's already there. It's just the next progression was not that far away. Um,
yeah,
and look, Fanatics, they were they're sitting right there. They're getting in. They were getting into you know other businesses, acquiring memorabilia, collectibles, things like that. Obviously acquiring a very a legacy brand like Tops that was dying, and then gave it new life.
yeah,
Um, and and now that again, we've talked about the building content and you know look, betting and odds and getting people just talking about sport and creating that you can they're not a cute the shopping network kind of thing. They see themselves as a sports company and a sports brand. So that's the type of content that they want, and talking about sport. And one of the biggest, most watched, most consumed um, content about sport is who are you going to take? What's the spread? Why get knowledgeable people to give you a reason why to take the points or why to take the under, or hey, here's a really neat prop bet if you want to play this, that on Thursday nights this team is 1-16, and guess what, they're playing on Thursday night, and I know it really looks like they're going to win this game, but here's the trends. And people people like that stuff. They want information,
people
and
dig deep. Yeah, people dig
yeah,
deep.
they dig deep.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you all that tune into our podcast. the audio version, of course. And once again, we'll catch you all next week. Take care, everyone. See you
All
later.
right, take care.